recipe is not a dictate, it's a concept. Once this concept is internalized, then whatever is fresh and best in the market that day determines the final menu, and whatever supporting ingredients are already on hand define the style of preparation. The original recipe is merely a historical reference to what others have found successful, not a format to be followed slavishly. Similarly, if I can leave you armed with a few truly fundamental principles and help you infuse these concepts into your everyday work environment, you'll notice the differences almost immediately. That being said, I am poignantly aware that it took our agency 25 wretchedly long years to top $150 million in annual billings, in a world where hot high-tech companies hit those numbers before the first day's lunch. Worse yet, I confess to you that it took us that quarter of a century because I made each mistake against which I caution and was brutally punished for every one of them. Over the past few years, I've had the chance to test people's interest in these philosophies when speaking at regional and national gatherings. In doing so, I've learned two things. One, many who are reputed to care nothing about business are deeply offended and discouraged by the structures that characterize most of the companies where they work. Two, I'm not the only CEO who's discovered this. In fact, an encouraging number of business leaders recognize the problems and are themselves working on management solutions, some along parallel lines to those I suggest. Therefore, since no great concept in this world is arrived at uninfluenced and with total originality, it shouldn't be surprising that a goodly number of my messianic business philosophies and practices may feel familiar. My particular theories have been drawn from thousands of personal experiences, but, more importantly, from a handful of great teachers. In truth, most of the best stuff in this audio began as other people's ideas. My excuse and hope is that this repackaging of universal principles will be sufficiently interesting and stimulating that the simple art of greatness will make a difference in how each listener manages his or her organization and in the business success and personal happiness that result. Back in 1975, when our tiny agency boasted 4 souls and billed less than $1 million, I hired Steve Heshe. Steve had been an art director at several very good advertising agencies. True to his indomitable integrity, Steve opted for self-respect over glory by quitting his agency and taking a job cutting sales on a floor of a Marblehead loft. Steve had bailed out because he hated advertising. Not the process of making ads, but the suffocating realities of being part of an exploitive industry. One day I cornered Steve to try to uncover the source of his cynicism. "You know," Steve began, "you've got a nice little agency. We're doing good work and everyone's having fun. But if you ever realize your dream, I won't be here to see it. One of these years you'll look around to see how you can cut costs and you'll figure out that I could be replaced by a hot young kid for half the money. But of course, I'll be out of here before you get the chance to get rid of me. In this industry, changing jobs is about the only way to keep my income going up and stay one jump ahead of the layoffs. But no matter what I do, sooner or later I'll be with an agency that loses an account, and no matter how I scramble, I'll get laid off one more time. Who wants to hire a 50-year-old art director? By that time, I'll have kids in college and no money to keep them there. Jim," Steve concluded, "this business is what I do best, but it's also going to kill me." Whew. I knew in my heart he was right about a lot of things. Of all the businesses that have institutionalized employee disloyalty, advertising leads the pack. We habitually pamper our stars of the moment with obscene largesse at times of great agency updrafts, then abruptly fire the very same people when the corporate need for reduced payroll outstrips the value of their contributions. When this apocalypse happens, it's followed by the stigma of public failure and a desperate attempt to maintain an unrealistically pumped-up standard of living. What a horrible thing to do to the very people whose skills and talent built the company. That painful conversation with Steve Heshe changed my life. Our agency stopped being just a business dedicated to creating great advertising and became an organization equally dedicated to the pursuit of a great quality of life for all who built it. Young Americans enter the workforce brimming with pride and eager for accomplishment. It's only when beaten down by insensitive bottom-line management and lowest common denominator standards that they react with self-protective timidity, lethargy, and disloyalty. It is my passionate belief that the most efficient and safest way a company can achieve its full potential is by making its workforce powerful enough